Okay, I think we can start. Hello again, it's me. So for the panel discussion, we're going to be joined by Vytautas that you already met. Maria, head of sales, who's been working in IT sales for more than 6 years, currently leading a full sales cycle international team within Oxylabs. Hi, Maria. Mike Barclay, Global Vice President of Sales at Athis, performance marketing software. Mike is recognized as a proven leader at building and executing go-to-market strategies for scale-up technologies. Šarūnas Rapailis, professional sales and leadership coach, and the founder of Southwestern Coaching in Lithuania. Šarūnas has over 16 years of experience in sales, sales management, recruiting, and general leadership. He's a big believer in hard work, following sales systems, implementing proven success principles, and having fun in whatever you do. So for the external people, we're really glad that you were able to join us for this panel discussion. And I think we can start with some questions if you're ready. So we're gonna ask a question, and I hope you can all answer this from your own perspective. So the first question would be, setting up yourself for success while working from home, what are the best practices to follow in 2022? If Maria could start, maybe, that would be great.
Yes, hello everybody. So nice to meet you all. And first of all, I really excuse for my voice as I'm been recovering for the most famous disease nowadays, but everything's fine. So I'm happy to be here. Hope the capacity of my voice would be enough. So speaking about the best practices and the key to success in my case, I would say is teamwork, and how to keep this team spirit high is definitely, from my point of view, is over communication. It could sound a bit controversial, but what exactly I mean with this over communication is that imagine that during working from home, we do not have options to meet each other, to have coffee breaks, to discuss what's going on, ask a lot of questions and so on. And that means that we actually need to find this like golden middle, how not to distract people with tons of like messages or calls or something, but at the same time to keep the communication high. So to keep the human part of our work and not only the work part. And some agile practices could help here, such as like daily stand-ups or weekly sync-ups. Of course, all of them could be done virtually as well, even like team buildings. And highly recommend to involve also some team activities, so team buildings and not only online drinking.
Great, thank you. Mike, hello and welcome. Nice to meet you. Is there anything you could share about these?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for that. I think one of the things that surprised me was thinking about how if people are working from home permanently after the COVID thing, and now this home working has become the way that people are going to continue to work, is that you now need to think about their home environment as a work environment. So your duty of care hasn't changed. So from a practical perspective, there are things like health and safety. Have they got the right setup? You know, have you thought about where they're sitting? Because when it was casual, like you gave them that in the office, you thought about all those things, right? But obviously when they're working from, when it's their own home, you didn't think about that. And now it is their office, then I would be surprised if in the future we don't find that people are talking about how businesses are not showing the same duty of care for their staff because they're at home, when they're saving all this costs and all that type of thing. So we've thought about that a bit in terms of trying to make sure that we've helped people have the tools that they need. The other part of it as well is when people are working from home is that quite often it's not the only thing that happens in the house. Other people are there, right? So we've had to be give more consideration to flexibility, as in, you know, if everybody comes to the office is open at night, open from, I don't know, 8 till 10, whatever your office hours are, that's what happens in that office. But when someone's at home, there's other things that can go on. So we've had to be much more flexible and think more about the outputs. So what is it they're delivering rather than what time are they doing it, when they're doing it, where they're doing it, and so on and so forth. So just brought that sort of thing to the front. And then, you know, just picking up on what was just said before, then there's a whole piece about with new people, how do you induct them? How do you get that sort of, you know, culture stuff across? So you could do all the online learning, but you know what it's like, you know, when you first start working, you sit in the office and you're just soaking it all up, and you hear about what the managers are like, and you hear all the stuff at the coffee table by the coffee machine, and we can't do all of that. So that bit's a real challenge. That bit we're figuring out, right? How do we make these new people? We're rapidly expanding, recruit 50 people, of which 40 of them and not have met anybody else from Pfizer yet. Yeah. So that bit also is another challenge that we've got to think through that we haven't figured out, but we are looking at ways that we do that. You know, the softer touches, the calls that do not have a transactional nature. I'm not ringing you about what you've been doing. I'm just checking how you are, that type of thing. But it still is a difficulty to see how we get that same cultural piece. I don't know if anybody's got any answers on that.
Great, that was really a nice question and really in depth. So next, maybe I'll ask Sharunas. Knowing your expertise, you probably have something to say about this topic.
Definitely, yeah. First of all, I have to apologize for my voice too. Maria, girl, I'm with you on the same page with the COVID. But I'll add to Mike. Systems is crucial. So teaching our people to be proactive versus reactive on their time is big key too, because while at home, not necessarily that they are most of them working from the bathroom or the kitchen. So definitely having their own space to do that, but also, do they actually know how to deal with their schedule? Do they separate their income producing activities, or do they completely work from their mailbox that they open on Monday and then it tells them what to do for the rest of the week, right? And that's a skill you can coach. So my second point is the leaders, team leaders, and then the VPs of sales, would have to definitely spend way more time, one-on-one or in the groups to actually coach people on how to do that, because there is tons of books written, but you can't expect unless you inspect, right? So you have to really check if people know about it or they know how to do it. There is a big difference in that. And that's one of the main topics that we've been coaching in companies as well. Our clients is on actually being proactive with their time. That's one thing I would add for sure.
Great, that was an amazing answer. Thank you, Sharunas. Vytautas, what else you can add?
Well, a lot has been covered, I'll be honest, but I will agree with Sharunas, regarding the schedule, routine, and sort of consistency. It's really vital for the people. And I think another thing is, measuring progress, setting KPIs to really have the, sense of achievement for the people to feel, and take those little wins and actually share it with the team. So you can see that everyone in the team is, it's actually progressing and doing and not getting into stuck at home routine sort of thing.
All right, thank you. So we talked about best practices in 2022, but we have another question. Maybe you can share what would you say are top 3 trends in 2022? I know maybe Mike can start with this.
Top three
trends
in 2022. Relating to what?
I guess work environment and how do we deal with this situation?
Yeah. Okay. So again, I'm going to sort of go on the human side a bit. So that work-life balance thing then becomes more complicated. You may have an office in your house. You might be lucky enough to have the space for an office, right? But you've still got the fact that where you work and where you live is the same place. So how do you drive that efficiency? So Runas was talking about making sure people are being effective, but also that efficiency, how do they manage that? So that's a trend for us that we're really focused on in terms of ensuring that people have the flexibility, but they're not working all the time. They're actually still getting the rest and all that type of stuff. So think about those sort of topics. The next topic that's really big for us now is coaching. So I think Son also mentioned that there's the ability just to absorb information from those around you has gone, right? So unless we are proactively coaching people, but also we're looking at how do we give them tools for self-development. So what can they do for themselves, online learning, self-development, and start owning that element. So that element about that development piece. And the missing piece for us is, again, how do we actually make sure that a relatively young team, which is what we have as a software company, are getting what they need to feel that they're bought into that company. And that's the challenge.
Thank you. So maybe Sharunas as well, you as a coaching expert, maybe you can forecast the trends that are upcoming for the 2022.
I'm not much of the wizard, like I mentioned before, cannot expect unless you inspect. that is for sure. You just have to see what the numbers, they never lie. People, they always do. Right? So trends, I agree with Mike for sure. This mixed work environment, home office, heck knows what's going to happen in several months. But I guess we've seen companies that are still waiting to see what's going to happen, and that's been 2 years. So they're probably going to be waiting. And the other ones, they just do something, they fail, and they learn from that mistake. I guess that's what Tesonet is really good about as well, is to making a failure quick, so then you can actually learn from it. So I'm not going to be really detailed into top 3 trends, what's going to be in next year. I'm just going to stick with my being proactive. Probably that's the main point that we would have to stand for.
Thank you. Maria, Vytautas, do you have anything else to add?
So I would I would also agree with Mike and Sharonas. And regarding the trends, I would say that most probably a lot of people, like we will be speaking about the engagement. So not only the outreach, but about the engagement. So actually, we all now know for sure how to do the outreach sequences, automation, a lot of other things, but how to actually engage in the era when you have the noise, like the informational noise. So I would say that, yes, definitely we should focus on engagement, both external, like with customers, and internal, like what Mike said, how to make our salespeople actually very motivated to do their job.
Thank you, Maria. Vytautas?
To be honest, I agree with all of what has been said. If we were to look at the engagement part, what Maria mentioned, there's sort of a trend in the industry looking at sort of intent data. So it's I think it would be quite interesting to see to exploit or acquire some tech stack which provides accurate intent data in terms of the prospects, and it could be the difference between active and non-active accounts. So essentially helping to find the low-hanging fruit. So maybe that's one of the trends I think would be worthwhile exploring.
Thank you. So empathy versus hard close. Is there a golden middle nowadays? I don't know if you have any. Is anyone else have a start that can answer this? Maria,
yeah, definitely. So about the golden middle, yes, I believe that there is a balance, and sometimes could be complicated to find it. But look at me, like now I'm live example of difficulties which could happen during this pandemic era. So when you planned everything ahead very properly, and then you just get off for several days and need to adjust, make new plans. So that's why I would say the key thing here is flexibility. Of course, we should be persistent in all our outreaches, approaches, and so on. But at the same time, we still should be very flexible and understand what are the environments of our customers and even within the company. So flexibility is the key.
I would like to expand on this actually. I think it's kind of depends on the industry. If we were to look at what we do and where we're working, and if you, let's say, we take travel industry, there's a lot of uncertainty, obviously, with the whole COVID times. So a lot of the time, the account execs are encountered the question, where the prospect wants to delay the decision, let's say by a month, or X number of months. So it's a really good opportunity to ask what the prospect expects to change within that time. And it's actually during that time, it's the discovery part is to really understand the concerns of the prospect. And then obviously then you can act accordingly based on the information provided, whether it's more empathy or whether you push for the hard close. It's really an opportunity to understand where the concerns are. And, it's with travel industry, then with all the different, changes that are happening and you don't know what's going to be next month. So maybe it's better to prepare right now for the possible change next month rather than delay it for a month. And then, travel is free in terms of everyone can travel, but, you're not prepared for it.
Thank you, Vytautas. Mike, Sharonas, anything to add?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think from SaaS, I think this whole empathy hard close thing is a bit overplayed in terms of the fact that, you know, it's been for a long time the need to be able to empathize and relate to customers and build relationships. Everybody's recognized that as being a completely important sales trait. However, the flip side is, I coach salespeople who are almost afraid. They think they've closed and they haven't, right? They're not actually making it clear that they're asking for that order. They're asking the person to go ahead right now. So unless they actually do that, someone else is going to come in and steal the deal. So I think you're always going to have empathy, but then you always have to have some sort of closing ability. And I think one of the things I also coach salespeople a lot is that no is an answer, because again, people are scared of getting a no, so they dance around asking, and that's always delayed. No, he's not. He's not going to do it. Just get the no, move on. You know what I mean? So the whole thing is, what I'm saying is that, yeah, you've got to empathize. Particularly now, it's much easier to just not turn up to a Zoom meeting, or like, oh, my camera's not working. Put your face up and carry on the emails because you're not really interested in what the guy is saying. They couldn't do that to you when you're face to face, right? So you need to know whether you are actually relating. That comes to the empathy, but you've always got to be prepared to ask the hard question and get the answer.
Right. Yeah, I think as long as more no's you're gonna get, it's gonna feel natural to that answer. You're not gonna get more like out of focus. Sharunas, do you have anything else to add?
I love it, Mike. This is golden. Yes is good, no is good, maybe is killing us all the time. Now, two things I want to cover a little bit. First of all is mindset. Close without mindset is gonna be pushy. Like salespeople come across as pushy salespeople. If you ask somebody in the street, like, hey, my name is Sharunas, I'm a salesperson, what's first comes to the head, right? It's like, oh my gosh, it's gonna sell me something. It's pushy. And it's not, because well, the mindset of the salesperson, I have those two questions. First of all, is the product or the service that you guys are selling helps people to live better life? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, then the second question is, are you one of the best or even the best in the area that does this? And if not, then learn. If yes, tell me one reason why you should not ask for sale. Because if you don't, somebody else will. You guys were talking an hour about being quick, 15 minutes, right? Like, 15 minutes might not work all the time, but not asking for close will work all the time. It's just not gonna work, right? So mindset has to be, helping people out, not asking for sales just to get the commissions. And if you have that type of mindset, you can ask whatever you want. It's about them. It's not about us. And then I would add a technical thing as well to fill a little bit Vytautas in. If somebody tells me, I want to think for a month, that's an objection. Do our salespeople know how to answer objections, and do they actually do it? There are four objections: price, purchaser, provider, procrastination, and we have to write word by word answers to those objections. If somebody tells me, call me in 2 weeks, I know exactly what to tell. Do the actual SDRs and account executives know? That's the question. So talking about trends, again, teaching and coaching our people to be really technically good in sales, not about product, not about SaaS industry in general, but like technically the entire cycle. Most of them haven't done. I read this research. I know I'm taking a lot of time, but this is mind-blowing. There was a research on LinkedIn that said that 67% of SDRs before becoming SDRs did not have anything to do with sales, ever. Think about it. Nobody ever taught them on how to properly do it. So that would be something to team leaders and VPs of sales to actually, coach our people to go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Can I just come back on that? Exactly, Sarah. So we've the great thing is our CEO is open to this kind of thing. So I've recently joined Pfizer to lead that global sales team, and we are now starting this year a foundational sales training course. So right back to basics: what is selling? What are benefits? You know, how do you actually close? What are the different types of closes you can use? All these different types of things. And we'll be doing it on a coaching basis where we do a session with them, and then we'll give them a real exercise to go and practice that on in their call. So not about our product, not about SaaS. This is fundamental sales skills, which once you've got them, you'll use them everywhere. Right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. Amazing. Thank you, guys. That was really good. Next question is transactional high velocity sales playbook still valid and work from home?
Okay,
Anyone
so
wanna jump
I
in?
can start as a tradition, right? So of course, our answer to that would be yes, as what Vytautas was presenting. So we do a lot of high velocity sales at Oxylabs, and we do a lot of data-driven activities involving like tons of automation, and it works actually both for us in outbound and inbound. But what is very, very important is to keep the communication still sound natural and customize it to the maximum. So, because with modern technologies, like you can set up automation the way when you could start thinking, hey, do I really need sales managers? As I can just send out tons of sequences, even LinkedIn automation, and so on and so forth. But of course you need, and I totally agree with both Mike Sharunas that we need to invest into our sales manager skills. And that's a great point about the 60-something% of SDRs not working before in sales. It's true. So we also hired a lot of juniors to SDRs who never worked before with sales. And that's why we do need to invest into onboarding, yes, but not only to product, but to sales and fundamentals, as mentioned before, too. So this is very, very important, and everything else could be automated.
Thank you, Maria.
Just think about it, I'll add. SDR and account executive, those are two separate roles. Would you agree?
Yes.
Now, most of the people, since retention is so big in companies, right? If I was an account executive, I'll probably go for another account executive and another account executive. Or if I was SDR, then probably somebody will hire me for another SDR. But then, you know, if I don't know the entire cycle, and if my mindset as an SDR is just to set the meeting, that means that I'm not building any relationships. I have no idea how to generate a lead myself. And I have no idea how to use this proper system of the entire communication that I had with the client. So that's where we lose. It's, you know, teaching all the people, and it doesn't have to be salespeople. Freaking secretary needs to know how to say hi properly and how to answer the emails. And just that's the point what we see in every single company where people are missing those soft skills. You can learn those things. Well, it just needs to be coached, and internally, externally, doesn't matter, but somebody really needs to work with those.
That's a great point, sir. I mean, you see that that SDR AE piece, right? So if you have an SDR and the sole thing they understand is how to get meetings, yeah, it is not in their interest to qualify. Why would I qualify? Because qualifying is two parts. I might disqualify someone that would give me a meeting. So I'm just gonna get meetings. And then the AE is saying, "These give me rubbish meetings." So you're paying somebody to give someone else a rubbish meeting because he doesn't know what's going on. You don't understand what's going on in the sales process and how down the line and what's actually going to really be of value to the customer, the company. He's going to make meetings. That's his job or her job. That's their job. That's what they're going to do. And therefore, they won't disqualify poor inbound leads. Why would I do that? Why would I stop myself being successful? So we've got that whole piece about educating it just goes up and down the line in terms of making sure the business is efficient and we all know what we're trying to do. We're not wasting our time.
Thank you.
I mean, Mike, I completely agree with you. It's one of the things we started doing is, you know, getting SDRs involved into the account exec called the demo calls to actually making the introduction, making the first connection, you know, sort of part of the relationship, and then seeing how it works and understanding when the demo call is, you know, qualified and not qualified. Essentially, if you want to progress to an account exec role and not have meetings which are completely useless, you know, waste time, get involved straight away. You book those calls, you know what to look at. Demo, you know, in demo call, you start to understand, you know, yeah, maybe from the original conversation, book this call because clearly it's not happening. It's not going well.
Thank you, Vytautas. Right. So we have some questions from audience as well. Is sales still relationship focused, or being quicker and automating the processes is the answer to achieve the sweet 10x?
I think we kind of covered that. I think it's still very much relationship focused. The being quicker is making sure that you respond quickly enough to make sure the person speaking to you. There's lots of studies about how much research people do now before they engage with any company. So they know lots about you. And if they're doing that research, they know about your competition too. So if you take your time to get back to them, someone else has beat you in. But once you're there, it's got to be the relationship, in my view.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I would totally agree with that. As of course, it's still relationship focused. And sometimes we do face such, not problems, but such situations when sales managers want to make it quicker, like to move or even to skip one of the phase of the sales cycle because they want to close or to like schedule a meeting, schedule a trial, or close. And that's what we always make an emphasis that, guys, we're not looking for a fast sale, fast checkout, like money in. It's not like that. We're looking for the long-term partnerships as we do invest into customer relationships like roles, face and roles in our company. So we do work with customers for longer period with account management, after sales. So that's why we really care about the churn rates and retention. So that's why the relationships we build in first, like even from the first ever call with the client, it is very, very important. And yes, we need to make focus on that because sometimes sales managers do not pay enough attention to that because they want to make it like quicker, get the results, get the bonuses and so on.
Thank you, Maria. Guys, Runas, Vytautas, anything to add?
People buy because they like us and they trust us. I have no idea how fast can you build this like and trust. If you can do it in 15 minutes, that's awesome. Many people can. But I know that the product or the service itself does not build any like or trust. B2B, B2C, B2G, it's people to people. And then if, again, coaching our people, teaching them, mentoring them, in field training them to ask proper questions, to show them, to find their need, not to tell, oh, I know your need, but to actually hear them saying it, to pour some salt on that wound by asking really uncomfortable questions. Take your SDRs and ask them how many of them would be really comfortable in asking questions, something like, oh, okay, well, what's that costing you? Oh, really? How long has it been going? What if that continues? What's going to happen in half a year if you move on like that? Those are uncomfortable questions. And for us as salespeople, these are crucial ones. But not because we need a sale, but because by asking those questions, we really show how we care about the client. Because sometimes the client doesn't understand himself yet. Because all he sees is this Oxylabs, and then there is 17 other brands, right? So again, I'm asking proper questions to show that you really care, not just say I care, but to actually really, show by asking those questions and caring about that situation is the key for sure.
Yeah, I think genuine curiosity. It's really important, and it's just as Sharuna said, it's not enough to to tell the prospect that yes, I care. It's genuinely asking those questions, digging in deeper, and doing the proper discovery. Of what's happening where. I think where the tech stack sort of allows companies is to gather the data points much quicker and then find and use that available data to potentially engage and to quicker build that relationship, maybe finding something in common and so on. But at the end of the day, it's all about relationships.
Thank you. So any of you guys care to answer? So would you say when you're scaling a business, right? And of course, it's even harder to maintain a connection, a relationship close to with your clients or like prospects. Would you say it's sacrificable, or you would never sacrifice a relationship that would be close? And how would you deal it? Is it employing more employees, or how do you tackle this issue?
Well, for me, I think it's that whole fundamental. It's, as everyone's been saying, if you skip a step, it bites you down the line. You can't close. The amount of times when a salesperson says, "Oh, God, he wouldn't close," or "she wouldn't close," or "they wouldn't close," that's not true. You couldn't close them, right? And you couldn't close them because of something that happened before, right? They might not have been qualified. It might have been the wrong time, but it's something that you own. And if you skip the steps, then you're blaming the customer. They didn't come to make sure that they bought from you. You were supposed to sell to them. So therefore, we've got to maintain that relationship. It doesn't matter how you're scaling. If you can't afford more people, then you need to think of ways to be more efficient with what we've got. But that step can never be missed.
Great.
We had clients where we literally implemented into their CRM a new stage. And we called that stage, you all know spin, sales, gap, whatever. In our internal company, we call it clasp. It's the same spin. It's just like a question asking technique. So we literally implemented that stage into the CRM. They cannot move to the next stage if they haven't asked those questions. Mm-hmm. I totally agree. You can't skip asking questions. You just can't. Otherwise, you are a shower. you just give. You're like a waiter, not a salesperson, right? My humble opinion.
Oh, that was a great example. We have some more questions from audience, and I think it's the last one. Do you think with home office, people can be more productive, and this will lead to the 4 working days per week, maybe?
Okay, so for 4 working days now, it's kind of the topic which a lot of people discuss. But honestly, from my point of view, productivity does not depend on the location, and actually does not depend on how many days per week you work, because we all care about the result, right? And about the performance. So in our case, we're pretty flexible. Of course, we do have the working hours and the working schedule and so on, and everybody should be present in the team meetings. But still, like if you are more productive, let's say early morning. So I have in my team person who starts working sometimes 6 a.m. Why? Because he just feels more productive in that time. And that's absolutely fine. Sometimes we adjust the schedule based on the customers which we are working with. Let's say if you need to have the call with United States customer, you should be available late in the evening, right? Or with China or with any other regions. So that's why, I mean, even in my previous experience, always it was said that the performance and the results is the key here. And it's not about the amount of hours we are working or tracking how many hours you were sitting in front of your laptop, or maybe you're creating your, I don't know, outreach speeches somewhere outside even the house, walking around the city or something. It's also fine. If you're still delivering, if you're still responsible for what you're doing and you understand like your KPIs, metrics, and you still engage into the process, for me, it's absolutely fine.
Thank you, Maria. Šarūnas, Mike, Vytautas, anyone else?
4 working days, that's time management. That's time management again. It's systems, it's income producing activities. Does every person on the team realizes what their tasks are, or they are doing it randomly? Multitasking, there is no such thing as multitasking. It just does not exist. So like really being able to focus for a certain amount of time on one task, that's huge, especially for younger generation people. I don't want to be stereotypical, but that's how it is these days. Really have to help them to get focused. 1 hour, we have this golden hour concept of like, how many calls can you do in 1 hour? Switch off all the emails, switch off all the extra notifications, and just pick the phone, take the list of people and just do the calls for 1 hour. That's it, right? And then it doesn't matter, 3 days, 4 days, 6 days. Time management is the key. And another thing, putting something to fill up the glass that it's half empty, personal things into your schedule too, not just work. Especially from home, people are getting crazy here. So, whenever everybody's used to go do sports, I'm a big motorcycle fan, kite surfing and everything. And whenever we cannot do that, it's just nuts. So actually literally putting on your schedule some time that you completely shut off, picking those activities is crucial. Otherwise they come back next day, open the computer in the same room that they slept, and their brain is like all over the place, right? So finding something outside work to do and schedule it in like a date night with a wife, putting it actually on the calendar.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I agree with what's gone before. I think it's all makes sense. So I'll be quite brief on it. And I think that productivity, as Maria said, it's not a focus of a function of where you are. It's about how well you manage, how well you're motivated. Do you know your KPIs? Do you want to get them done? So it's a separate question from 4-day week, 4-day working. 4-day working is about policy, how the business wants to run itself. But I don't see this, but the productivity thing has nothing to do with where you are, like has been said before.
Thank you. Vito, there's anything else to add?
I think more or less it's covered. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's about the results. And, if as an account exec, you are able to meet your quotas and achievements working 2 days a week from anywhere, well, good on you. Share the practices. How do you do it?
Of course, thank you. So yeah, so the follow-up question maybe would be about these 4 working days, right? So let's say if your employee finishes the tasks or reaches all the goals within the 4 days. So who's responsible for motivating, or maybe let's say would that spare time would be spent for the leisure, or employers would need to kind of motivate them to take the free time, or maybe do something else, walk an extra mile, or maybe how many miles then the person should walk after completing their goals?
Yeah, that's a very good question about how many extra miles we should go. But of course, like what we expect from people that actually that it's their ideas, like what exactly they can do extra and how exactly they can extra impact on the company itself. So our goal is to make people be motivated to be that very important part of the whole company processes. So not that you just come, you just do your task like from A to Z and that's it. So our goal as leaders in sales, and not only in sales, is to make people be engaged into the process and understand like, okay, so I have these tasks, but I have also this idea. So in our case, we do advocate like this open communication style. So we always want to listen to anybody's ideas, not necessarily about the team processes, even about the product or about the company processes and so on. So that's why when we discuss, a lot of new ideas could be born. And sometimes some people can even say that, okay, look, I'm not very productive at these tasks, but I better do that instead. So maybe we can adjust somehow. So that's why I mentioned all this flexibility and so on. So yes, of course, there is no limit for extra miles. And also one of our tasks as leaders to create that like motivational schemes, like both, let's say, material and not material. So to keep them highly involved into all the processes. And I would also want to add about the previous thing regarding the time management. So yes, I would agree, but I really do love the concept of attention management. So it's actually something what Sharon has mentioned about it's not possible to multitask because yes, it's attention management. So sometimes you do not need to measure the time, but your attention. So if you're fully into that task, it's better to do it, to finish it, and then go to others. But of course, we all work in a very, very fast changing environment. So sometimes we should be like, be able to adjust and to switch from one task to another, especially if something new's been happened or released, or clients ask some questions or something.
Thank you, Maria. All right, so I think we have one more question. I see that nobody likes to forecast what's going to happen in 2022, but maybe you can take a look and see how and to think what will be successful outreach campaigns, maybe how they would look like in 2022.
So I'm going to give a sort of more general response to this. So like, we're all people, okay? And sometimes salespeople forget that their customers are also just people. So if you sit with a salesperson and talk to them about, do you get many sort of marketing emails? What about your personal email? Oh, I get all this trash and people send me all this rubbish and, blocking up my Gmail, and I've now got all of my tabs and I've got one of those bots that wipes them out. And said, okay, what do you like about the emails? And explain it to you. And isn't that the kind of email you're sending to your customers? Do you know what I mean? Right? Because they're actually doing the same thing because they've almost forgotten that there's a people. So whatever you're doing, whatever communication you're doing, you need to be thinking about, how do I receive stuff? Now, obviously, we're not saying that everybody's the same and all that kind of stuff, but as long as you're thinking about how do I receive that? Would I say that with my friend in the room? Would I say that at dinner? Would I say it when the person was in front of me? And if you wouldn't, don't send it, right? Because clearly you're just forgetting that you're talking to a person. You've got to make sure that whatever that communication is makes sense. And I think Andreas made, I love that thing we said, Rich, about no outreach without research. Yes. And that's no matter what you're doing, high volume, low volume, because you've got to qualify what your outreach list is at the very least. And then no follow without reason. I love that one. I'm definitely going to be using that one. And again, the whole thing like, just bring it back to top of your inbox. Thanks. I didn't need you to do that for me, mate. Yeah. So that whole thing about how frequently you call to action, you definitely wouldn't be physically keep going. So can I come in? Can I come in? Can I come in? Can I come in? So you can't always have a call to action. You've got to have some other value thing. So it's going to be just incorporating all of those things. It will be researched, reasonably personalized. It can be automated. There'll be no outreach without research, and there'll be no follow-up without a reason. And those are the ones that are going to work.
Amazing answer, Mike. Thank you. Anyone else like to add?
Well, no, Saruna, go for it.
No, Vytautas, you. I'm talking too much.
No worries. Kind of difficult to follow up on Mike's answer for that one, but I would agree with you. I would say two things. What is the message and how it is delivered. So a couple of things that could be exploited rather than using the same sort of emails and LinkedIn messages. You could be looking at LinkedIn voice messages. These sort of things are a bit different. Not many people are. It's gaining traction, but if you're early there, get in there, but at the end of the day, it's going to be what message do you actually send to engage with the prospect.
Thank you.
I'll add to Mike and Vytautas as well. I know the most successful campaigns will be the ones that will be really straightforward about the client. Anything you do is about them, not about you. Oxylabs is not important. The client is important. And if you will point that message from message one, so again, let's get technical. Let's look at our LinkedIn messages. What do we write in the first message? Most of them, I look, it says, hi, I'm this and this from that and that company. That's already wrong. It's a sales call. Can't really mention, our company name in the first sentence. You just cannot do that. That's a rookie mistake. So many people do that. If we make the messages about them, I loved Andrus's part as well, where he said, Mike, sir, I'm stunned by your achievements. I would really love to have you in my network. Happy to connect. Bam, that's first step. Second step, again, I heard many good things from these people about you as well. So building that relationship, because it's always about them. Many messages or emails that we receive is pitching their ideas from day one, and that's probably not going to work this year or even years in advance. So
thanks, Jonas. Lastly, Maria, maybe something else you could comment on that?
Yeah, so actually, I also wanted to point this principle about no outreach without research, and that we do invest time in in our teams as well. So to figure out how exactly we can be valuable for the customer, and absolutely agree about not speaking about ourselves, but about the customer. with that's like I'm repeating always, all the time. So not to say I want to or I would like to know, because nobody actually cares about what you would like to know. They care about what they are doing. And sometimes somebody also mentioned that sometimes the client even does not understand what the problems they have before you start asking questions. And when you start asking like the proper smart qualification questions, then they would understand that, yeah, probably we could do it better, or we could adjust or change something. So that's why, yes, definitely, like do your homework, not just send the tons of follow-ups. I want to be on top of your email. So you understand like what exactly you want to get from them, what answer you want to get from them, and then build your message based on that.
Definitely. I agree that it's important to show that you're trying to understand them and then highlight this. So for the questions, I think that's it. This was great panel discussion. I think a lot of people took some knowledge and I think they can get in touch with you if they have more questions or want to ask something else. Later on, I mentioned again, our presenters had their QR codes visible, and you're going to have all the contacts. Again, thank you for all the speakers, Vytautas, Mike, Maria, Šarūnas, for the panel discussion as well. It was really great. And I hope we can meet next time.